So welcome, Michel, from Microsoft. Always nice to have Microsoft in the room, in the Microsoft Teams room, podcast room.
Yes,
so, yeah, what do you think?
Hey, it's great. Thanks for having me. It's an upgrade from last year.
Yeah?
Last year, you were downstairs, a lot more crowded, tighter space. This year, you've actually upgraded, so good job. Good job for you.
It looks good, right? I think the way we've tried to stage this is a little mini signature room, so like a teeny tiny signature
I can see
room.
that.
We've got the plectrum table, we've got all the
I can
devices.
see that.
Obviously, a few more cameras that we may have in the signature room, but that's for what we're doing here. So, Michel, for the people that haven't met you before or seen your content online or follow you in any way, just give us a brief description of your role, what you do at Microsoft, essentially a flavor of Michel and what it is that you get involved with for the big M.
Right. First of all, thanks for having me.
Anytime.
It's always great to chat with you. So the official title is the EMEA. Even I struggle with this. The EMEA Senior Channel Lead for Teams and Devices, which essentially means that our team looks after the full EMEA channel for Teams rooms to create better meeting experiences and inclusive meeting experiences. And that also entails looking at trends around the world and then trying to figure out how our technology can help customers to achieve more.
Excellent. That's good. I think we're touching on something immediately there, aren't we, in terms of how we engage or enable technology to help our customers. This is something that's very close to the Ingram pillars of success and our mantra generally. You know, we're a distributor. Obviously, we shift in, as the old expression goes. But actually, we've evolved as a business to become much more of a solutions business. And our work with Microsoft has been a key part of that, how we develop, how we've transitioned from a simple box shifter into a very much a modern workplace practice, a modern workplace solution.
Right.
Our UCC business has expanded to include many more disciplines. And actually, as the whole conversation expands, we enter into the realm of, we got to say this, how many times now? 13 or so times every time you speak. Otherwise, someone at Microsoft's getting fired.
Yeah, my batch might stop working if I don't mention Copilot at least 5 times.
There we go, right. So we've got.
So I just have one under my belt. We'll keep counting.
And actually, on the topic of Copilot, a little shameless branding here.
Oh, look at you.
There's a little freebie for you. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.
little show gift with a little Copilot bag.
That's great. Let me show the...
Here we go. Check it out.
I love this.
Looks good, right?
Thank you.
I love the colors on that as well.
I love
actually.
it that when you bring gifts, there's something in it as well. I won't open it now. But
Yeah, don't show just how cheap the gift is.
Right.
You know, we
It's
don't like
empty
to see
boxes. No, I'm kidding. But thank you.
It's just packaging.
I appreciate this. Yeah, this is great. This is great.
Good stuff. But obviously, with Copilot is the advance of AI in terms of effectively how you bring more value into the meeting room space. And I think it'll be interesting to get your take on what Microsoft sees in that. We see the public-facing publicity of Copilot, and Copilot is a very, very big topic, right?
Right.
And it's getting bigger by the day. But in terms of the meeting room space, particularly, how have you seen that evolve with the onset of AI, and how do you continue that journey forward? Hasn't AI kind of reached a point where actually now it's doing everything that we can do, it's doing everything more effectively? So where does it go from there, really? So, I mean, what's that journey look like, and where does it go?
I think first of all, we have to realize that in order to run an effective hybrid meeting, let me take one step back. There are companies now mandating people to come back in the office. I'm telling you now, Carlos, I don't think it's going to work.
Me neither.
For one, talent doesn't want to go back to the office 5 days a week. And then 2, the buildings just aren't ready, right? Just go speak to customers and ask them, are all of your rooms video enabled? The answer is no, right? And we know that 2 out of 3 meetings will have at least one virtual participant. Matter of fact, I run into people that are saying, even when I'm in the office, right, I'm with my headset on as if I was at home, which is weird, but that's happening.
Yeah.
So we know 2 out of 3 meetings will have at least one virtual participant, meaning that there are 3 elements in every meeting room that are key. One is good audio. Right? And if there's no audio, there's no meeting. I'll prove it to you right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So if there's no audio, there's no meeting. The second one is being able to pick up nonverbal communication. Right? You sitting there nodding at me is a form of acknowledgement, whatever.
Exactly.
And then 80 to 95% of all of our communication is nonverbal. So that's the second pillar. And then the third one is being able to recognize who's in the room. So having speaker attribution, either through voice or facial recognition, is key for driving an inclusive and productive hybrid meeting. Right? So, and that's where AI comes into place. So we'll start with AI in the form of recognition of voice. So you can upload a simple voice profile in your Teams application, and then when you step into a room, the room will actually recognize you. So then when you look at the meeting transcript, you'll see Michel said X, Y, and Z. Carlos asked about this, and that. And that's going to help you, because if you don't have that, then the meeting becomes worthless. Just imagine being in a board meeting with all kinds of different important people saying different things. If that would show up in the transcript as conference room executive 1, that meeting would be worthless, right? So having that speaker attribution is key in meeting rooms. So that's the first part of AI, and then the second part is being able to then interact with that transcript. So being able to ask, hey, what were the topics discussed during this meeting? What are the points that are still open that we need to further work on? What I like to do as well is, on my team, I like to ask who spoke what percentage of the time, because again, I want to make sure that every voice is heard. But so you can go really deep with it. So 1, AI on the device side, and then 2, working with these large language models to actually get value from that meeting as well.
It is interesting, right? Because obviously, from a perspective of how much value we get from the meeting room space, the meeting room is dead space for the most part. You think 10 people in that room, a few participants will actually take an active engagement in that meeting, meaning that they will be the ones that contribute more often than not. You tend to find the periphery of people there are there for awareness, are there for some context. They're not necessarily owners of actions. They're not necessarily main contributors. So when you think,
why are they even there? Let's
exactly
touch briefly on that. And I need to be careful that I don't go on a rant. And I'm on only 3 hours of sleep, so I might just do it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Can we stop having these large meetings, please? There's a research that shows that every person more than 7 that you have in a meeting room, so every person you add after 7, that meeting, the effectiveness of that meeting declines with 10%.
Yeah.
So that means that meeting that you were on last week with 20 people, completely useless. And then 2, can we please stop using meetings to inform people? Can we start using meetings to actually make decisions?
Yeah.
Right. So, and you know this, when you schedule a meeting with me, it's always 25 minutes, and
Absolutely. That's it. That's been the case for a while, right?
Right. And so the way, even how this came about is you send me a message on Teams and, hey, Michel, are you at GITEX as well? I would love to record a podcast with you. Would you be open to do it? And these are the slots that I have. And I was like, yeah, sure. Great. I'll do it. And I'm available these days. And then we had a meeting, and I'm not sure if you remember, but that meeting lasted only 5 minutes. And at least the part where we talked about business was only 5 minutes. And we used those 5 minutes to make decisions.
Yeah.
Right? These are the topics we're going to be talking about. These are the points I want to make. And that was the end of the meeting. And instead of spending 45 minutes or an hour on that meeting, we just did it in 5 minutes.
It's much more effective that way, right? I see a lot of people online who are trying to promote sales businesses, sales services. They often criticize people hiding behind messaging apps and email. Every tool is effective if used correctly.
Right.
And ultimately, like you've just explained, we did the preface of that meeting very much in a virtual way. In a remote, non-touch, non-engagement, we came back to each other with the minimal time that we needed to. Right. And then we confirmed everything. And that's how that works effectively. No one's hiding behind an email. We're using the tools effectively to give us maximization of our time and our workload. So I completely agree with you. And when a lot of people say about everybody coming back full-time to the office, it's fantastic. Imagine all the Microsoft Teams room devices that would be in all the offices if that was the case. The reality is those devices still need to be there, right? Yeah. They need to be there to maximize that effectiveness within the meeting room space. But I am with you in as much as I do not believe, now that everybody's got used to hybrid working, many more remote workers besides, and much more productivity as a result of that, you and I couldn't do our roles if we had to be in the office straight away, right? So it's untenable. Yeah. Our productivity would drop. So this is something that
not only my productivity would drop, Carlos, also the joy that I have at work would decrease.
And that's important, right? People have to enjoy what they do.
Right. And then also the joy that I get out, and this is going to sound super fluffy. Again, I'm on 3 hours of sleep. Also the enjoyment I get out of life decreases. Right. So if you look at it from a real meta perspective, if you go back in history, people used to work to live. And I think one of the advantages, and of course the pandemic was horrible, but coming out of the pandemic, what we realized is that we rather enjoy life more than being stuck in an office from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
We rather have the freedom to take our kids. I take my kids to school every morning, right? I have breakfast with them, take them to school, and I have dinner with them every day, right? I spend time with my wife preparing dinner for that evening. It's quality time that I'm spending with the family.
And you can't do that if you're in an office, or
and I can't do that if I'm in an
traffic.
office, right? And at the same time, I think I'm twice as productive when I'm working from home. I get twice as many things done when I'm working from home. If I go to the office, I go there to meet people. So for me, and also if you would ever come to, have you ever been to the Microsoft office at Schiphol in Amsterdam?
You know, I haven't. It's one of the few I haven't visited.
Oh, well, we should do that then. But so 75% of that building is open to partners and customers.
Yeah.
Meaning that the role of the office is changing. So it's now becoming more of a place where we come to see each other. It's like almost like a social hub.
Yeah.
Where we go to instead of just being on Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, Outlook, whatever you use.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's going to be difficult for everyone to go back. I don't think it's going to happen. And then the second part is the point I made earlier. Officers just aren't ready. Ask the facilities managers there, they're not ready for everyone to come back into the office.
So what's the statistic these days? I mean, what was it? About a year ago, it was only 8% of all rooms are video enabled. I think that went up to about 15%, depending on who you asked, which other vendor and so on. Everybody has a different spin on this. But we can't be far more advanced from that point, to be honest with you, today. I was looking at some stats earlier in terms of, it was Gartner, who was sharing some market information. Look at that. We've got
I'm just waving at someone taking a picture.
That's Antti. He's our poly guy. It's really good. Also heads up our services, which is another offering that we are actually wrapping around a lot of different programs that Microsoft offer, as well as the kind of things that we can deliver to enrich our partners' lives with Microsoft Teams rooms in particular. So, yeah, good guy. Very, very influential within our business. But as we were saying, there's a lot of different things that Gartner was, FutureSource, not Gartner. Forgive me, FutureSource. I did not mean to say that. So FutureSource provides some information to me, and actually the way that we work has changed fundamentally. The way that we lean into and have an inclination towards remote working has changed fundamentally. Why I fully agree with you. The remote work is here to stay. The hybrid work is here to stay. So the office has to be far more functional. The office has to have the equipment in there. And going back to the whole AI topic, it's essential that businesses move with the times. It always has been. You know, there's new technologies that will supersede old technologies. That's been the case since technology existed, since we conceived how to make fire or invented the wheel. That's a given. And new technologies will essentially put other things in the grave. You know, AI, there's a big fear that, the Terminators will rise up. People have heard me say this on the podcast and the show already. The Terminators will rise up and they'll take our jobs and, humanity will end. We all know that's nonsense, right? But there's a certain truth in that the people that fail to use these technologies effectively are the people that are going to be dinosaurs as we move forward. I say that in a very critical sense, but actually it's a very real sense that AI and the technology adoption within that encompasses more than just what we see in the large language models and the GPTs in the world. And for me, I'm seeing actually the single biggest driver for AI in our marketplaces we see is actually the meeting room, because you can create so much more efficiency by using AI, like you just mentioned, with a lot of the different functionality that you've got there. For me, it's a very intriguing topic, and I'm trying to fight back a cough. You can probably hear me.
Take a sip of water.
It's beyond that, unfortunately. So forgive me if I stutter a little bit here. But ultimately, I think it's going to be interesting to see where Microsoft go with this, because am I able to say anything about translations that I'm not sure if it's
you're able to say
domain.
anything. I'm not sure if I'm going to say something about it, but you can say anything you want to, buddy.
Well, look, I'm going to say something right now, which is, you may or may not be able to confirm, right? But as I understand it, obviously we've got translations already within Teams. That's available within the meeting room space. What I've heard on the grapevine, is that we will soon be getting real-time, literal language translations with virtual AI effectively.
Interesting. Tell me more.
Tell me more, he says, like you don't know, right? Anything I'm saying, there's a truth there somewhere, right?
I think if we look at what AI is capable of these days.
This is
See, I'm a guest here, but also do audio control.
You're the most technical guy I understand right now.
Right? Yeah. What was I going to say? What were we talking about? Oh, we're talking about AI translation. If you look at the capabilities of AI these days, right? It goes beyond just language, and I think AI is capable of doing it. Let's see what we announce in the near future. But I think more going back to what you said earlier about Terminator taking over the world, et cetera, et cetera. I agree with you. AI is not going to replace us anytime soon, but the people using AI, they will, right? So what we're seeing is that 75% of the people are already using generative AI at work.
Yeah.
And half of them have started only 6 months ago. Do you remember, you're old enough to remember this, do you remember when cell phones first made it into the workforce?
Yeah. I was at that critical age, have just become an adult, and it was one of those things.
Right.
Yeah.
So cell phones came to the workforce, and initially companies were like, well, we don't have to do anything with those. And then all of a sudden, everybody had access to their email on their cell phones.
Yeah.
And then companies started rolling out mobile device management. Well, this is going to go even faster, right? So the adoption of this technology goes at such a high pace that you have to start thinking about it now. And blocking tools is not the way. We see some companies do that where they block some type of URL so people can't access it anymore. But then they'll find other ways, or even worse, they'll take it home and do it there. Right? So I think you need to start providing for it. So you need to make sure that you have generative AI tools, and for us, of course, that's Copilot, the Copilot for Microsoft 365. But I think Copilot in itself is a great place to start, to at least have that data security in place, so that you can freely speak about anything you want to without being afraid that the data is being used to train the model with. Not saying that others do that, but I just know what Microsoft products are capable of, and I'm not as invested in what others do or don't. So it's a great place to start, but you have to start today. And there's no turning back, I think. And then people might say, yeah, but it's going to replace jobs. Yes, it will. If you look at the world prior to the tractor being introduced, 80 to 90% of all the people worked in agriculture.
Yeah.
Right.
Very
and
true.
then the tractor came along, and then that shifted.
Yeah.
And I think you'll continue to see those shifts even in the times of AI and generative AI. You'll see shifts, and there will be roles that will be obsolete, and there will be new roles that we just aren't aware of yet.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say, actually. With the old roles becoming obsolete, the new roles will be created.
Yeah.
And that's the same, from the Industrial Revolution or before then. We've seen that happen time and time again.
Right.
I'm personally not afraid of the onset of AI soon. I embrace it. I use it in my workday. I use it in my private life. It's a tool that's become very... we just dropped out there. It's a tool that's become very ubiquitous in the workplace. Obviously now more and more people are rolling out. But from my perspective, there's a lot still to come, right? There's a lot that we haven't seen.
Yes.
So very quickly, conscious of time, we are limited today to only a very short window of time. I wish we had more time, Michel. Every single show, I wish we had more time.
I'll be back next year.
That's it. I'll try and catch you at a different show as well. Let's see if we can keep this going at different events. But really, in the interest of giving some juicy tidbits to the viewers, the listeners on the podcast, what is Microsoft doing anytime soon that you guys are going to be talking about, or what are you talking about right now that is perhaps really, really interesting? Just as a high level, this is what it is kind of thing.
I think up until now, Copilot has always been your personal companion that sits in your pocket, right? So whenever I ask Copilot something on a meeting, only I see it. When I ask Copilot something in BizChat, as we call it, that's the chat function in Teams, only I see it. What about if you could add a Copilot or an agent to your team? Right, so now we have Copilot there as a meeting facilitator.
Yeah.
That's gonna keep track of the agenda. Again, let's go back to where we started with the meeting lifecycle, right? Making sure that there's an agenda in place.
Yeah.
Copilot will keep track of the agenda and be like, hey, you're currently at 5 minutes. You need to go to this topic. In real time, Copilot will take your notes for you. You can see it type. It's quite impressive.
Yeah.
You can see it type. It'll take notes for you. It'll make sure that all the tasks are there. Those tasks will pop up in your to-do or your planner or whatever you use, pop up there. And then Copilot will keep track of the meeting. So it'll say, hey, we're at the halfway mark and these topics still have been, or these questions have been unresolved. Maybe you want to focus more on that part. So you'll have a meeting facilitator that's there. That's a virtual agent, so to say.
So imagine
Copilot.
if we could take the meeting room example I gave earlier, 10 people in that room, only 2 contributors. Suddenly now you have 8 more people becoming productive because they've now taken effective notes, they know the action points, they can contribute offline rather than having to do it on the meeting itself.
And then maybe instead of being on that meeting, they can follow the meeting now.
Precisely, yeah.
Right? So they follow the meeting, and then afterwards they get all the notes that are written for them. So I think that's going to be a big game changer. But you can also add that to your project team. So you can say, I'm working on a project. Let's add Copilot. And say, hey, Copilot, we worked on such and such a file. Can't find it. Can you find it for us? Oh, wait a minute. Here's the file. So hey, you have a deadline coming up. Or we make decisions together. You have a brainstorming partner right there as a Copilot, as an agent that can help you. And same in the meeting room. So let's say you walk into a meeting room and there's no scheduled meeting. What if you could bring that same agent into that in-person meeting?
Yeah.
Because now if you walk into a meeting room, even if you have a Copilot for Microsoft 365 license, in that meeting, in-person meeting, you will not have transcription. What about if you could just scan the QR code on the front of room display and Copilot would be there in the room with you taking notes for you?
Awesome.
Right?
Awesome,
So I think those are the next things we need to start thinking about.
I'm very excited to see what you guys do at is Ignite for next.
Ignite, yeah, Ignite's next. It's my favorite conference. I'm a nerd. You can tell I'm a nerd by heart. Ignite is my favorite one, and we're gonna come with a couple of big things that I'm sure you'll enjoy.
Let me know before they happen. It'd be interesting to see what goes from that. But look, Michel, we've run out of time. Unfortunately, it's a shame always, but. Really want to thank you for coming. It's good to see you at the show. I always appreciate it, and the viewers don't really realize this. Michel's time is precious beyond comparison. He's required everywhere. So the fact you've given us a brief window of time, really appreciate it. Very thankful
Anytime.
to you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's always fun to chat with you. I love the energy from you, but also the whole Ingram Micro team. So it's been fun. Have a great GITEX. And like I said, I'll be back next year.
Awesome. Thanks, Michel.
Thank you.
Take care.
Go bye.